Tonight on the Daily Wrap, controversy abounds as the president takes to a podcast to utter a word no president in modern times has dare said before in public. Meanwhile, the battle rages over whether the Confederate battle flag should be flying on the grounds of the state capitol in South Carolina. Is this a case of respecting one's ancestors or simply thumbing a nose at the African American community? We'll discuss all that, plus potluck and yay or nay. This is the Daily Wrap, live from New York City. Welcome to the show tonight. I am joined by tonight's co-host, Heather Hansen.
So nice to be here, sitting in your seat.
All moved up a chair.
Feeling a little Rick Unger-ish?
You feeling a little? You're channeling a little Rick Unger. That could be interesting. Joe Concha, of course, is taking a night off, well deserved. Also joining us at the table is Noel Nikpour, Republican strategist, political consultant, and author of Branding America. Welcome, Noel.
Thanks.
Nice to have you. And of course, returning for his fifth appearance, our one-time champion, a Forbes.com contributor, a fellow Forbes.com contributor, Bill Tucker is back in the chair tonight. So welcome to all of you. All right, let's get right to the Daily Download. Over the past year, race relations in America appear to have taken something of a downward turn. A new Gallup poll shows that Black Americans now rank race relations as the most important issue currently facing the country. While in that very same poll, it's revealed that white Americans consider dissatisfaction with government and the economy as the primary issues. With these opinions serving as a backdrop, stand-up comedian and popular podcaster Marc Maron sat down with President Obama this weekend to get his take on race in America, with results that were somewhat unexpected.
Racism, we are not cured of, clearly, and it's not just a matter of it not being polite to say nigger in public. Like, that's not the measure of whether racism still exists or not. It's not just a matter of overt discrimination. Societies don't overnight completely erase everything that happened 200 to 300 years prior.
So, guys, you got to start with the top line question. Was the president out of line, Heather, in the comment that he made?
I just think he was divisive. I think that given what happened last week, given what we saw in the church yesterday, as far as the way that that community handled themselves, there are so many other ways that he could have handled it rather than getting to
Was the
use of that
divisiveness in
word.
his choice of using that word, or are you saying in general he was divisive?
I think in general, but especially in the choice of using that word. I think as soon as he used that word, that became the story. We're talking about that instead of talking about the way that everybody came together in Charleston over the weekend, the fact that there was a march across the bridge, the fact that that community all forgave and talked about coming together as opposed to riots. Instead, we're talking about the use of that word, and I just don't think it was necessary. I don't think it pushed the ball forward at all with regard to race relations.
Well, if you put that word into the context of what the president was saying, it somehow seems, at least to me, less offensive than he obviously didn't call somebody that name. But I do have to agree with Heather. It did put us into a whole different direction in the conversation. My question for you is it going in that direction because it's being pushed that way by the very same people who have a problem when the president says good morning? No matter what he says, they have a problem. Or is there really something to this?
I don't really think anyone liked it. I mean, I don't see Democrats or Republicans or whites or blacks. I don't think anyone likes the word or really approved of him using the word. I think that it was just a faux pas. I don't really think that.
Do you think it was a faux pas? Don't you imagine that if the president was going to use that word, he thought about it first?
Well, I mean, it's nothing for him to say the N-word. You know, the N-word.
We
all know, but we all know what it means. If he would have just said the N-word instead of saying what the word was. What? Come on. I mean, like if somebody says, what if he wants to really say something and go, you know, the F-bomb or the F whatever? Does he need to really say it to get the point across? We get the point. We understand, you know, what it was like or whatever. You don't need to actually label it. Get on.
All right, so Bill, here's my question. We complain a great deal from both sides about politicians never really saying what's on their mind. Now the president steps up and he very clearly said what was on his mind. Are we wrong to criticize him for it, or are we looking at a president who's liberated by the fact that he's only got a year and a half to go and he's going to speak his mind?
I have no problems with him using that word. They're his words. I have a problem with the speech. I agree with Heather in terms if I were going to speak on this, I would speak in a different direction. There's so many other things you can talk about. But he was making a point, and he made it strongly, and he made it clearly, and I happen to agree with his point that he was making. And if he'd have said N-word, but if he'd said N-word, what are you going to think? You're thinking the same word
I'm thinking
anyway.
the same word, but you don't have to say it. Come on, we live in an era right now where we're so PC, we're so sterile,
Exactly.
and
Yeah, but you're
he's one of
usually
the
against
ones.
the PC. I mean, that's what's kind of interesting
No, I'm
about
not,
this. The
you know.
people who always say liberals are too PC, and you're often right about
and
that, by the
he-
way. Now you're kind of
He's
going
the
all
one
PC.
doing it. You know, he's the one that's wanting it. You know, a lot of Democrats, a lot of liberals are very hypersensitive on being PC. So you would think if a Republican would have said that, if a candidate, Jeb Bush, on a radio interview, can you imagine what would be going on right now?
That's kind of fair, Heather. I mean, I got to tell you, it's not just Republicans who tend to criticize the president who are making a big fuss. I have heard no shortage of black Democrats on television today, also not happy about it.
Well, there's always been this debate. I mean, back when Oprah was on, she would talk about this all the time as to whether or not African American people are allowed to say that word or should be saying that word, or whether it advances what we want to have happen here. But it's not only is it decisive, but it's a distraction. Rather than talking about race relations and how we feel about each other and why we feel that way and how can we feel better and how can we discuss it better, we're talking about a word. And while words have meaning and they can be symbols, I think that it takes away from the conversation.
Is the other side of this that at least he's got us talking about it?
No,
because
come
before
on.
this, we weren't
Oh, come
having
on.
any
We've been
kind
talking
of a
about it in
conversation.
Baltimore. We've been talking about it in Cleveland. We've been talking about it,
And
Rick.
the conversation has improved since Charleston, I think. I think that when you saw these people come together, and the people that were walking on that bridge on Sunday night, for those of you that don't know, there was a walk of unity across a bridge in Charleston on Sunday night. Thousands of people walked across together. The conversation has improved until this.
Interesting. So, Mike Marone, I almost called him moron. You think that was a Freudian slip of some sort?
Maybe.
While Mr. Marin wasn't the only comedian with something to say about the state of race relations in America, comedian Bill Maher took on the South Carolina shooting and racism on his show Friday night, blaming conservative news outlets for Dylann Roof's actions.
We can never know why someone snaps, but I bet you I know where he got his news.
Yeah.
I mean, I looked at, because we're coming on the show, I looked at your website the last week. It was a lot of stories about black people. A lot of stories. Same with Matt Drudge. I mean, I think they present a really twisted view. I'm not surprised this guy thought they're taking over the country. Obviously, he's a warped mind. That goes into it. But I don't think it was video games. And I do think the media is responsible to a degree.
Well, I think
Noel Nickbar, does Bill Maher have a point, or was that completely unfair?
Bill Maher, my God, really? I mean, he really stretched on that. Bill Maher really
he's a lovely fella.
stretched.
His tone's usually so nice.
I don't dislike Bill Maher. I mean, he's in the media gig, and we all poke fun at each other and whatnot. But I've got to tell you, that's absurd. It's far-reaching to say that that any of the news outlets or any of the websites. Come on, you don't believe that.
Believe it or not, I agree with you. I don't think it's fair to lay, behavior like that, which was simply
silly.
Racist, evil, in my opinion, terrorist behavior, you cannot lay that at the feet of any news
Sicko dude.
organization.
And it's ridiculous. You don't hear him saying the same thing about more liberal media outlets driving the riots or driving any of the things that happen on that
No, I
side.
didn't
It
hear him
is
say that. That's
absolutely
right.
ridiculous that he would take that opportunity.
Bill, you
But this is
disagree,
an
right?
opportunity. I totally agree with Bill Maher. I think he's a wonderful fellow. I think he will say anything, do anything to get people talking about his program, and here we are talking about his program. Some more people watch it on HBO.
Yeah, I got to say, despite whatever side you may represent, I think those kinds of comments are out of line. I disagreed with Hillary when she tried to lay it at the feet of Donald Trump in his speech. No, I seriously doubt that guy even heard Donald Trump's speech. So it doesn't seem fair to really do that. I think it would be better off if we looked at real causes instead of the ones we're trying to use for political benefit or whatnot. Agree?
Right,
We all
totally.
agreed on something.
It's
How about
fabulous.
that? Well, on that, coming up next, the Confederate flag is becoming a somewhat divisive issue for some GOP hopefuls. We'll tell you what and who wants it taken down, who doesn't want it taken down, and who just really doesn't want to talk about it. Keep it right here on Newsmax TV. Much more to come.